Welcome back to the channel. Do you want to see what I can do with just one light frame each of SHO data with the new Poseidon-M Pro? Then join me for first light. My name is Morten and you are watching Frost Astrophotography. I have been waiting a very long time for dark skies up here at 63 degrees north, and it is finally coming now in the end of August. I was preparing the home observatory for the new season, and the other day I took calibration frame, darks, dark flats and flats for the new Poseidon-M Pro camera, and at that time I also managed to take one light frame each of SHO data, that is 5 minutes each, on the Veil Nebula. And in this video I'm going to show you the process of calibration frames, as well as what kind of image can you make with just one light frame each of sulfur 2, oxygen 3 and hydrogen alpha, totaling in just 15 minutes. We are closing in on astro darkness here in Örnsköldsvik at 63 degrees north. We're looking at the first little taste of astro darkness on Friday on the 29th of August, followed by another hour, of course, on Saturday 30th, but it doesn't look like the weather is going to be good. Tonight, however, the weather is going to be okay around midnight and a couple of hours, and I'm going to make use of that to recheck the polar alignment, and I'm also going to take some calibration frames, and that is what we are going to do right now, or at least prepare to do right now. I've switched over now to the mini PC I have connected to my telescope and equipment out in my home observatory. I have connected all of my devices, everything looks okay, and I'm preparing to take dark frames. I usually want to take at least 40 frames to produce the master dark frame, and I of course need to take dark frames for each exposure time and for each temperature of the camera sensor. For me, that is usually around minus 10 degrees Celsius down to at least minus 30 degrees Celsius. Sometimes minus 35, because it can be very cold here in the middle of winter. Then I have prepared a sequence here that is called the dark frames. And the settings here are my normal binning, the default gain and offset, like I said, there's no dithering going on. And I need to have this for each and every exposure time that I normally use. For my deep sky objects, this is 300 seconds, But I also like to have dark frames for 120 seconds, 60, 30, and 10 seconds. Just depending on the type of object or target that I'm currently capturing data for. This process will have to be repeated then for each and every temperature, and we will take those individual 40 dark frames and produce a master dark in PixInsight. I have captured my dark frames, and it is time to take flat frames and dark flat frames. For this purpose, I use the flat wizard in Nina, and when the flats are done, I will go outside and cover the lens cap to take dark flats. 1 second, around 30 in brightness setting for the flat master for broadband. 8 seconds and around 190 in brightness. Now I have the basic settings for all of my filters. I also want to take dark flats here. So I will put 40 dark flats up here, and it will switch to luminance first. It will take an exposure testing the settings, and that was okay. And now it is capturing the flats here. It is the day after the session in which I gathered all my dark frames and flat frames and dark flat frames. And I'm in PixInsight now, and we are going to integrate the dark frames to begin with. I'm going to start a new dark frame library, since this is a new camera to me, the Poseidon-M Pro from Player One Astronomy. And I usually do this once a year maybe for dark frames, since you can reuse them. The only thing you have to consider is to match the temperature of the dark frames towards your light frames, as well as exposure settings. I ran through -10, and I will add on to that library. I will show you quickly now how to integrate one dark frame or one master dark frame. I'm opening up image integration. I've saved here the settings. I'm not going to go into detail here. You can look up and watch one of my extensive videos. I'm going to add files here. I'm going to go into my folder, dark frames. I'm going to select my 300 second, and if everything is correct, it's going to be 40 dark frames here. That's correct. And then I will just click on execute, and they will be integrated into a master dark frame here. It will be interesting now to compare this dark to the one I had with my previous camera, since this camera is amp glow free. It will be interesting to see the difference. So I'm going to open up the exact same master dark for the ASI 294mm Pro at 300 seconds -10, and here is the difference. You can see that you have a very noticeable amp glow here from both sides, left and right, and also down here in the right corner. maybe a little bit here in the left corner. This hasn't been a big problem for me because this is calibrated out, but it's nice to have a starting point. If you are for some reason taking images without calibration frames, it's nice to have an amp glow free image. So for every session you need to take flats, or do you need to do it for every session? Well, I used to be very particular with my flats, taking them exactly after each session, for each filter even. Of course for each filter, because you change some things in the optical train. And if you don't take it apart, if you don't change anything, if you don't change rotation or whatever, I think you can reuse flats for a limited amount of time. You also need to calibrate the flat frames, and for that you need dark flat frames. And those you can build a library with, because those are basically dark frames. And since it is not light frames, they can be reused. So in the same way that we did dark frames, I have dark flat frames here, and those need to be matched with the exposure times of the flat frames. And my flat frames, I don't take 300 seconds of. I try to take them as short as possible, but still I prefer to have at least 1 second. So for the broadband, I have 1 second. And for the narrowband, I have 8 seconds. So I can start with the blue here, for example. I went through all of my filters in the current configuration, and the gain and offset camera default, and then I have a 1 second exposure and at -10 degrees. And I will create this for every exposure type and temperature setting. Even though the temperature setting is not crucial here, it's a very short exposure time, but and now you might think, is he mad? Well, I know that since this is a dark frame, I probably don't need to do all filters here. The only important thing is the exposure time of 1 and 8 seconds, and possibly the temperature, if that plays a role or factor in the short exposure time that we have. But when I'm doing this, it's not much extra work to just do the different filters here. So I like to keep it for each filter separately, but you could do it for the exposure settings, exposure time, and temperature when we are talking about dark frames. Moving on then to the flats. I'm going to save a library of flats now for the different filters. I can reuse them, but I will probably not do it for that many sessions. I will retake flats just to be on the safe side. We are going to integrate the flats, but before we can do that, we need to calibrate the flat frames with the dark flat frames that we just created. So that was the last calibration, and now we are going to integrate the flat frames. We are going to do a quick edit of first light with the new Poseidon-M Pro. It's actually only one light frame per filter SHO. We will see what that will give. I will open up and show you the 3 light frames here that I just quickly captured after taking flats. These are calibrated HA and O3 and S2 of the Veil Nebula here, or Western Veil Nebula, part of it. And it looks promising to start with. I don't see any prominent halos. This is the O3 here. It's very nice. It could be a big halo here because it is a very bright star, but I don't really see that in these images. Not on the S2. Maybe it could be a little bit here on the S2. That would have to be handled later on if we're not removing the stars. And HA looks good, I would say. This is not going to be a conventional edit. We're going to do it fairly quickly and just with 1 frame each. So it is going to be noisy, but we will try. First thing we have to do is to align these images, because they are not aligned right now, and if we integrate them, it will look bad. So we are going to take the HA as a reference here, and then I'm going to add all of the 3 images. I'm going to select my light frame folder here. I'm not going to drizzle anything right now, so I'm simply going to register these 3 images with each other. Now we're going to do some initial quick edit here on these. We're just going to run through blur exterminator, noise exterminator, and star exterminator on these 3, and I will speed that up for you so you don't have to sit through it. There we have the 3 light frames separated and linear processed. Now I'm going to take the stars here. I'm going to stretch them. I'm removing the screen transfer function. I will minimize the starless files here for now and put them up here. And I will open up JHS here. I will put that to maximum, select my S2, open up a preview, and then I will stretch the stars here until my liking. I will close that preview, and then I will apply this stretch to all of my 3 star frames here, like that. Then I will combine the stars here for an SHO star. Normally I will also do some color calibration on this to get the correct colors, but now this is just a first test because I'm not doing any serious processing on 1 frame each. So I'm gonna save this as my SHO stars, and I will use it in the final integration later on. Moving on to the starless here. I'm fairly pleased with these. This is 1 5-minute frame each only. And you also need to consider now that these first lights were gathered without astronomical darkness up here at 63 degrees north. I only have had nautical darkness, and definitely not the optimal conditions, I would say. I was simply out to take my calibration frames and fine tune my polar alignment. So we're going to do a quick stretch of these. I'm going to use the script here, SETI Astro statistical stretch. For these, I'm going to select my HA starless. I'm going for a target of 0.15 here with a curve boost of 0.05. So no special treatment, just a quick and dirty stretch, I would say, with these three here. Then, looking fairly good right now. I'm going to run through the IHDR on these as well with a low HDR and intensity of 10, masking like 120. This will take some longer, so I will speed this up for each of the frames. There we go. We have 3 stretched light frames starless versions here, looking very, very good for being just 1 light frame each. Now I'm going to combine these images into a starless SHO like that, and calling it SHO starless here. I'm going to save that now, and we're going to do a quick check before moving on to see if we need to adjust any of the other ones in order to get a good looking SHO to start with. So I'm going to run through SCNR here just once, and I'm going to invert the image here, and I'm going to remove the magenta colors on it also, and then revert it back. And I'm thinking that we have something good and nice to start with here, so I'm fairly happy with that. We don't need to start over, I would say. So I'm going to keep this here. If you look at my normal processing, I usually put on or make color masks before moving to this step with SCNR. But I'm not going to do that now just to save time. So I'm simply going to adjust the colors a little bit here with the script here. It is selective color correction, just to enhance some of the colors a little bit here, starting with the blue. And I'm going to start with the cyan, I'm sorry, and I'm going to increase the blue on that a little bit and the saturation on that a little bit. I'm going to take the blue later, and I'm going to increase the blue on that. Keep in mind this is a quick and dirty edit now, and it's not representative to an extensive edit of an image, I would say. I'm going for the yellow next. I'm going to see if I should increase the red on that a little bit, maybe. And the saturation a little bit on that. And maybe we will keep it there for color correction, I would say right now. I don't need to do anything else. I'm going to sharpen the image now, so I'm going to extract a luminance here to use as a mask. I'm going to take my histogram transformation here and select my luminance. I'm going to open up a preview. I'm going to make the background a little bit darker and decrease the intensity just a little bit of this. This will serve as my mask when I'm doing the sharpening of the image here. So I'm going to apply this mask to my image. I'm going to turn off show mask so you don't have to sit and look on that. And then I'm starting my multiscale linear transformation tool here on it. I'm going to zoom in here on an area, and we can see that sharpened the image a little bit. Removing the mask, moving forward to noise reduction. This is only one frame again, so of each. So I'm going to just do the quick and dirty noise exterminator one more time on this. There we go, and that looks fine. I'm starting off with my HA, taking a copy, renaming it luminance here, and opening up a range mask here. We only want to highlight the most prominent sections here of the image. You can play around with these. You can exclude the highlighted areas if you want to. And then we create the mask here. Then we're applying this range mask to the HA that is acting as the luminance. Now we're turning off mask. We're running through some local histogram equalization. To create that contrast. There are different settings here. I'm running through this at least 2 or 3 times like I normally do in my editing. And then we're going to remove that mask, and we are running some more sharpening on the image here. And when that is done, we can open up the LRGB combination tool here, and we can add this synthetic luminance layer onto our SHO starless here with the default settings. We will see how much this alters the color and perception of the image, and I was fairly happy with that, I think. So before here and after here, a lot of new structures and contrast added. So for the sake of this test, I'm going to keep this, but this process could go on for a long time in order to get the correct balance to add. I usually also add some dark structure enhance. We can do that here. I don't think we need a big amount, so I'm adding like half of the maximum setting here. Not half of the maximum setting, half of my normal setting, I should say. And we can see if that had any impact. A little bit. We're going to keep that. That's fine. And I usually do some final color corrections or whatever is needed before adding the stars back, but I'm not going to do that now. So the last step here is to actually add the starless and stars to each other here. I'm going to rename these two to fit my pixel math formula I have saved here. And I'm going to execute that to join them together. And that gave us this image. Now we could do some more adjusting if we want to. Just going to open up real quickly curves transformation here to see if we would like to adjust the curves a little bit here. When you join together, it always adds a little bit of brightness. I could adjust the saturation here a little bit if I want to on the image here. Maybe I will increase that a little bit, and also the vibrance of the image there. And then I will select RGB and do a very tiny S-curve to that image, something like that. So SHO with SHO stars, 15 minutes. This is the first light of the Poseidon-M Pro camera from Player One Astronomy, and it is only 15 minutes of monochrome data, 5 minutes of sulfur 2, 5 minutes of oxygen 3, and 5 minutes of H alpha with the Player One Astronomy SHO filters. And I must say I'm very impressed, since we have 15 minutes of data under nautical darkness, not even astronomical darkness up here. And I'm very eager to see what this will lead to later on in the season, when I can simply add on a lot more data. Because 15 minutes, yes, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed indeed. I think you should stay tuned to this channel and see what the new season and this camera has in store for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're not already doing so. If you found this video interesting and you want to see more of what this camera can do, please stay tuned for upcoming videos and images.